Buffy the Vampire Slayer has so many fascinating vampire characters. We have our fan favorites. There's Angel, there's Spike, there's Drusilla, there's Darla, even Harmony has her fans. But I think there's one vampire that hasn't received his fair share of attention, Mr. Trick. I think that Mr. Trick was taken from us too soon. Although Mr. Trick appears in only 5 episodes, those 5 episodes demonstrate that he's a lot more interesting than so many of the other sidekick vampires that we see. So what is it about him? From the moment he enters the scene, Mr. Trick is oozing charisma. He is 100 times more charismatic and more interesting than Kakistos. He is suave, he's smart, he's confident, and he's funny.
Spiny looking head things, I ain't never seen that before.
I am Kulak of the Mequat clan.
Isn't that nice?
No, I'm hungry.
Mr. Trick also stands out as a modern vampire on the show.
Using these vengeance crusades are out of style. It's the modern vampire. You see the big picture.
In the beginning, he is giddy over the fact that the whole town is wired because he can order anything and notably, he can track Faith electronically. So he's looking for Faith in the smartest and most efficient way possible. He's not sending Goonies to look for Faith. He is tracking her electronically by looking through all the hotels and motels in the area. Mr. Trick is also the type of guy to prefer takeout and going to drive-thrus for his food rather than hunting like most vampires do. He also doesn't like to get his hands dirty and he prefers for people to do his fighting for him. Mr. Trick makes fun of a vampire for using a sword because for him, that's just way too old school.
It's called the Uzi, you chump.
His idea of Slayerfest is also pretty technologically decked out. He's tracking the Slayers electronically, he's tracking all the assassins, and he gets to sit back and watch. So unlike many other vampires, this is a guy who learned to evolve and adapt in the world that he lives in. He's not stuck in his old ways. He might be the only vampire on the show that we see who truly embraces technology. He learns to change. We see other vampires struggle. Mr. Trick is also independent, practical, and business-oriented. He likes Marmaduke because no one tells Marmaduke what to do.
That's my kind of dog.
I like to read Kathy.
He's also independent, similar to how Spike is independent in Season 2. The actor who plays Mr. Trick, Todd K. Freeman, originally auditioned for the role of Spike, and we see those similarities come out in his character, specifically the need to look out for yourself.
God, he's gonna kill her.
If we don't do something, the master could get killed. Well, the birds are with him.
Mr. Trick displays his leadership when he creates Slayerfest. The way that he talks about the competition, you could see that he's a public speaker. He is a leader.
Ladies, gentlemen, spiny-headed looking creatures, welcome to Slayerfest.
So this leads to the question, if he's so independent, then why is he with Kakistos in the beginning and why does he join the mayor? Well, I have a theory on that, but I'll get back to it. Mr. Trick is also a businessman. In addition to being modern when it comes to technology, he is modern when it comes to business. His Slayerfest idea is not only fun, but it's also a great business venture when you think about it. He makes all the assassins put in a deposit for a chance to win. For him, this setup is a win-win situation. He doesn't have to get his hands dirty, he gets a cut of the money if someone kills the Slayer, and he gets bragging rights for doing so. If no one manages to get the Slayer, he keeps all the money. This is a perfect business opportunity. He wins either way, he makes a profit. And I just love the fact that Mr. Trick also took the time to make a recording for Slayerfest. He not only recorded an intro, but he made a little Slayerfest logo. I think it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of adorable. If I was a villain, I think that's what I would be killing my time on, to make a little recording, to make a little logo, because you know what, at the end of the day, if you're evil, you might as well just be fun about it. Another example of Mr. Trick's business acumen is when he decides to subcontract when the mayor asks Mr. Trick for help with a tribute. So Mr. Trick understands the importance of getting connections and not doing the work himself. What he does is offer a creative solution to a problem. This is not the way that we see most vampires operate. What he does is distance himself from the potential problem, from Buffy. We also see Mr. Trick's love of business when he tells Ethan about how much he loves this country because if you can create a good product, then people will come to you. And at the very end, Mr. Trick makes the decision to pay Ethan Rayne because even though the plan didn't work out, he knows he should not burn that bridge. Mr. Trick's background. We basically don't know anything about his past, and this is where I put on my tinfoil hat and read too much into fictional characters. But what I find so interesting about Mr. Trick is that he is the first and only character on the show to mention the lack of diversity in Sunnydale.
Admittedly, it's not a haven for the brothers, strictly the Caucasian persuasion here in the Dale.
Mr. Trick also makes it a point to mention discrimination in his past.
This is the point where you tell me that I don't fit in here in your quiet little neighborhood. You can just skip it. Because see, that all got old long before I became a vampire. Do you know what I'm saying?
Now, these are throwaway lines and a show that's commentating on itself. But we could also look at this as a reflection of Mr. Trick's character. Mr. Trick could be a character that has lived in the United States during the worst periods of discrimination and segregation in this country, and he has learned to be very quick on his feet and to become very clever. He learned to adapt quickly because he knows that in order to survive, you need more than physical strength. You always have to reinvent yourself and be clever. He didn't have the physical strength or the magic to fight forces that were beyond his control, but what he had was his intelligence to overcome them. This is where Mr. Trick's name, I think, becomes very notable. It is a nickname that he probably adopted himself, but it's also probably a nickname that others gave him because of the fact that he used his intelligence to fight others. So I think that Mr. Trick has a very rich backstory. He lived through discrimination. He recognizes that humans can be monsters. He values his freedom because that's something that was taken away from him in the past. And I think it's also interesting that when he mentions past discrimination, the mayor says nothing. Both of these men have lived through the beginning of the 19th century. So why does Mr. Trick join the mayor? Why does he join Kakistos? I think he does it not out of volition, but out of necessity. I think that Mr. Trick is smart enough to know that when there's someone very powerful, you play it cool, you play nice, and you bounce when you need to. In the beginning, we see that Mr. Trick distrusts the mayor. He resists the mayor's invitation, and he has a look of fear when the mayor opens up his cabinet. Throughout their interactions, even though Mr. Trick is kind of amused by the mayor, we could see there's a perpetual sense of distrust. What ends up leading to Mr. Trick's demise is that the mayor sends Mr. Trick out into the field, which is not something that Mr. Trick likes to do. So what I would have wanted is for Mr. Trick to show up in the field, to see Faith and Buffy, to assess the situation, and to say screw it, and to bounce to LA. For me, Mr. Trick, with his style and his charisma, I feel like he would have fit in really well into Lauren's karaoke bar. He might have gone out there and sang a few songs at Lauren's karaoke bar, not to have his aura read or anything, but just because he feels like singing. He might have then done some contract work for Wolfram and Hart, and maybe he met Drusilla at one point and he went out on a few dates with Drusilla, and then maybe eventually he met up with Ethan Rayne and they teamed up together to create more havoc for the world. I think that Mr. Trick and Ethan Rayne would have been a perfect match together. So these are my thoughts on Mr. Trick. Honestly, he is a character who I think is just very intelligent, very funny, very suave, and confident. I wish we saw a lot more of him. He was dusted way too soon. If you are new here, I'm a big fan of talking about smaller characters, and if you have a small Buffy character that you wish someone made a video on, let me know. I would love to do a video on them. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Mr. Trick. Let me know what you think of other characters, and I'll incorporate them into my videos. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you.